Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The hotel manager, Madame Leonard, had always been proud of her status and unquestioned authority. But today, driven by intense curiosity and a desire to understand the reality of her establishment, she had decided to disguise herself as a housekeeper. No one was to recognize her. Dressed in a simple uniform, broom in hand and rag at her fingertips, she entered the lobby silently. The employees, accustomed to her imposing presence and authoritative gaze, did not recognize her. As the day progressed, what she saw exceeded all her expectations. The underhanded insults, the mockery behind customers' backs, and the contempt with which some staff members treated her, a woman they believed to be absent, left her speechless. The arguments between colleagues over trivial matters, the lack of solidarity, and even malicious acts toward customers, all of this shocked her deeply. At noon, while she was wiping tables in the hotel restaurant, a young waiter spilled his tray on her, laughing with his colleagues, thinking she was a poor, clumsy housekeeper. Her face flushed, not with embarrassment, but with indignation. She realized that her hierarchy, rules, and procedures were not enough to maintain ethics and respect in her hotel. As she quietly slipped back into her office at the end of the day, she knew she had to act. What she saw would change the way she ran the hotel, a drastic plan to reform the staff, enforce respect and discipline, and, above all, instill empathy and dignity for all. But one question haunted her: what if certain behaviors reflected something deeper, more ancient, in her hotel's culture? She hadn't seen anything yet. Madame Leonard, manager of the Hotel Majestique, surveyed the great hall from her glass-fronted office, steaming coffee in hand. Every detail of her establishment had to be perfect: glittering chandeliers, immaculate carpets, impeccable uniforms. But recently, she had heard disturbing rumors. Some employees were engaging in shocking behavior when she wasn't around. That morning, she made a bold decision. "It's time to see for myself," she whispered. She called her personal assistant. "Prepare me the cleaning uniform. And no one must know I'm in the lobby today." Within minutes, Madame Leonard had disappeared behind a sober suit and a scarf that hid her hair. She slipped into the hotel like a shadow, broom in hand, ready to face the unknown. The moment she walked through the lobby doors, the shock was immediate. Murmurs and stifled laughter turned into cruel comments as she passed by certain employees. Disdainful looks, remarks about her age, her supposed lack of competence, and worse, whispers about the incompetence of other staff members. She heard and absorbed all of this, her heart clenching with every word. In the kitchen, a young waiter accidentally knocked over a tray. The noise startled Madame Leonard. But instead of apologizing normally, the waiter burst out laughing and said, "Another clumsy one, as usual." She felt anger rising. Not at herself, but at the way these young people were being trained, ignorant of dignity and respect. Every rude gesture, every mockery, was a piece of the puzzle of a staff disconnected from the value of their profession. As she walked down the corridor leading to the rooms, she saw something that almost made her fall. A staff member was contemptuously throwing away a guest's rubbish, as if his role were unimportant. And yet, it was the guest who kept the hotel alive. The scene deeply shocked her. At the end of the day, exhausted but determined, Madame Leonard returned to her office, wiping the sweat from her brow. An idea took root in her mind: it was no longer enough to manage the hotel with rules and procedures. The entire staff culture needed to be transformed, and that would begin tomorrow. But she had no idea that some employees, now aware of her mysterious presence in the corridors, had begun to hatch their own plan. The next day, Madame Leonard decided to continue her immersion, but this time with increased vigilance. She wanted to observe every detail, every interaction. She put on her cleaning lady's uniform again, this time with a false headdress to conceal her face. From the morning, tensions were palpable. The employees, some aware of his mysterious presence, seemed more nervous, more cruel in their petty provocations. In the lobby, a bellhop deliberately pushed a customer while whispering to his colleagues. "She's bothered me 3 times today. I'm sick of these old ladies." The director felt her blood boil. She could no longer remain a mere spectator. But what happened behind the scenes overwhelmed her. While cleaning a luxury suite, a young intern, thinking he had carte blanche, began laughingly throwing a guest's personal belongings on the floor. Another employee, instead of stopping him, joined in. The scene was brutal, humiliating, almost intentional. Madame Leonard froze and felt her heart sink. She realized that these behaviors weren't isolated mistakes, but a reflection of a toxic culture rooted in her hotel. It was then that she made a decision. She stood up, raised the broom, and said in a firm voice, sharp as a sword, "Enough." Silence fell instantly. The employees stared at her in disbelief. How could a mere cleaning lady speak like that? Some burst out laughing, thinking it was a joke. But Madame Leonard took off her headdress and dropped the cloth. Everyone's eyes froze as they finally recognized the manager, the one they had always treated with respect in the office, but whom they had humiliated all day. The room seemed to hold its breath. Apologies poured out, clumsy and panicked. The manager, impassive, stared at each of her employees. You think your uniform gives you the right to disrespect your colleagues and customers? You think no one sees your true behavior? It's over. Every word, every gesture you make today will be examined, and I assure you, the consequences will be commensurate with your actions. A heavy silence reigned. Some employees looked down in shame, others tried to deny it. But everyone understood that nothing would ever be the same again. Madame Leonard had just crossed a line. Not only had she observed, but she had exposed the truth. And the hotel's culture would have to change, forever. The next morning, the hotel seemed normal, but an invisible tension hung in the air. Every employee still remembered the dramatic revelation of the previous evening. The manager, disguised as a housekeeper, had caught them in the act of disrespect and malice. Madame Leonard wasted no time. She summoned all the staff into the great hall. The murmurs this time were muffled by fear and curiosity. With a gesture, she motioned for them to sit down and spoke. Yesterday, I saw the truth. What I saw is not only unacceptable, it's shameful. Do you think your uniform defines you? No. Your behavior, your choices, and your respect for others define who you are. She paused, scanning the room. Some employees were looking away. Others were trembling slightly. Starting today, every action will be observed. Every failure will be punished, and every effort recognized. But there's more. I've decided to let you experience what our customers and colleagues are experiencing. A murmur ran through the room. Madame Leonard then brought out a trolley filled with unusual objects, uniforms from different departments, simulated tasks, emergency situations. You'll spend a week swapping roles. Those who serve rooms will serve the dining room, those who clean the windows will move to reception, and each will experience the pressure, fatigue, and responsibility of the other. The employees were stunned. Some burst out laughing nervously, thinking it was a joke. But the manager wasn't smiling. And at the end of this week, we will meet here. You will tell me how you felt, what you learned, and most importantly, how you intend to change. Those who show no improvement will have to leave the hotel. Shock turned to panic. No one had ever faced such a demand. Murmurs turned into hushed discussions. Madame Leonard ended her speech with a chilling sentence. The Majestic Hotel will never again be a place of contempt or indifference. You have two choices, evolve or leave. The time for excuses is over. As she left the hall, everyone knew a new chapter had begun. The rules had changed, and this time, change would be non-negotiable. But behind the director's firmness, a thought persisted: some of them might resist and test her limits. The first days of the role-swapping program were a shock for the staff. Those who were used to ordering or ignoring certain tasks now found themselves cleaning windows, carrying heavy trays, or greeting demanding customers. At first, some employees tried to bend the rules. The arrogant young waiter tried to slide trays across the floor to forget them, another used emergency excuses to avoid tasks he deemed humiliating. But Madame Leonard was always present, observing, taking notes, and immediately correcting any deviations. A more subtle rebellion was forming behind the scenes. A few employees began whispering among themselves, planning to sabotage certain tasks to make the program impossible to succeed. They believed the director would give up in the face of their stubbornness. What they didn't know was that Madame Leonard had anticipated every move. She had installed small, discreet cameras in critical areas and was observing every gesture, every word exchanged. One morning, when they had arranged to meet in a storage area to discuss their plan, she appeared behind them. "I'm listening," she said calmly, almost softly. The employees froze, some stuttering, others trying to deny it. But the silence was heavy. "You think you can defy my rules?" she asked, staring at them one by one. "Every move you make here reveals your true character. And believe me, I see everything." The shock was immediate. The murmurs stopped, faces paled. They understood that the headmistress wasn't just strict, she knew every detail, every loophole, and was ready to exploit them if necessary. "You have 1 week to learn respect and discipline," she said, turning to them. "After that, we will evaluate not only your work, but your attitude, your empathy, and your ability to work together. Those who fail will not stay." That day, the staff understood a fundamental truth: the manager didn't just run the hotel, she transformed the men and women who worked there. And anyone who underestimated her would regret it. And as they returned to their tasks, some whispered among themselves, "This woman is more formidable than anything we have known." But Madame Leonard, in her office, knew that the hardest part was yet to come, convincing those who still resisted to change their hearts. The week of role swapping drew to a close. The employees, exhausted and confronted with the reality of their actions, were beginning to change, some in spite of themselves. The customers, for their part, had noticed the sudden effort and the renewed quality of service. Murmurs of admiration gradually replaced the mockery. But the real lessons went far beyond the daily work. In the lobby, Madame Leonard gathered all the employees for the final evaluation. She didn't immediately discuss discipline or sanctions. Instead, she asked a simple question. "What did you learn this week?" The answers were hesitant. Some spoke of the difficult work, the fatigue, the pressure. Others, more sincere, revealed their past mistakes, arrogance, mockery, contempt for customers and colleagues. The director listened to them, silent but attentive, taking note of every word. Then she revealed what they had never imagined. "Some of you believed that no one saw your true behavior. But everything you do in this hotel has an impact on others, your colleagues, your guests, and even yourselves. The attitude you adopt defines who you are, far more than your position or your uniform." A young waiter, the most arrogant of all, lowered his head and whispered, I never realized how much my actions could hurt others." Madame Leonard smiled slightly, a mixture of gravity and pride. "That's good. Awareness is the first step. But the second is action. You all have a chance to fix your mistakes, become better, and prove that you deserve to work here." It was the most dramatic moment. Some burst into tears, others remained frozen, pondering their own weaknesses. The secrets and frustrations accumulated over the years were revealed in their looks and gestures. By the end of the day, as the sun set over the Majestic Hotel, a real change had taken place. The staff, though nervous and tired, finally understood that respect and dignity are never negotiable. Madame Leonard, observing the scene from her office, knew that the real challenge was only just beginning, maintaining this transformation over the long term, in an environment where old behaviors could easily resurface. But for the first time, she felt that hope was possible. A few weeks had passed since the role-swapping week. The Majestic Hotel had regained its splendor, but Madame Leonard knew that real change is measured in actions, not just in kind words. One morning, a prestigious client arrived unexpectedly with a difficult request. He wanted his suite ready in less than 30 minutes for a high-profile private event. The staff, aware that the hotel's reputation was at stake, immediately felt the pressure. As some began to show signs of stress, the arrogant former waiter tried a shortcut, ignoring essential details to save time. But a young employee, recently transformed by the week of role swapping, intervened. Wait. We have to follow protocol, or we risk ruining everything. The arrogant man, surprised, hesitated. Madame Leonard, discreetly present in the wings, observed the scene. This small gesture revealed a real change. Some employees had internalized discipline and the importance of professional ethics. Then an unforeseen incident occurred. The suite's air conditioning system broke down. Panic gripped some of the staff, but those who had realized their responsibilities quickly took action. Together, they improvised a temporary solution to ensure the guest's comfort. When the guest entered his suite, everything was perfect: a pleasant temperature, impeccable decor, and impeccable service. He remained silent for a moment, impressed by the staff's precision and calm. After his departure, Madame Leonard gathered her team again. "You have just experienced your first real test," she said. "Some almost gave in to the easy way out or the stress, but others showed what I have asked of you from the beginning: responsibility, respect, and solidarity." The arrogant waiter, now red with shame, whispered, I finally understand what this means. I never thought about how my choices could affect others." Madame Leonard nodded, satisfied but aware that the road ahead was still long. She knew some employees would always resist, but those who had truly changed now formed the core of a team capable of maintaining excellence. That day marked a turning point. The Majestic Hotel was no longer just a place of luxury and appearances, but a space where every action and every person mattered. And Madame Leonard, with her clear vision and relentless determination, was ready to continue transforming her team, one behavior at a time. A few months had passed since the transformation initiated by Madame Leonard. The Majestic Hotel was shining bright again, and the staff seemed more disciplined and respectful. But the manager knew that true loyalty was revealed in adversity. One evening, while the hotel was hosting a prestigious international conference, a general power outage plunged the building into darkness. Elevators stopped, security lights flickered, and panic threatened to set in among guests and staff. Some employees, still clinging to their old ways, backed away, unsure of what to do. But the core group of those who had truly changed immediately took charge. The young waiter who had once defied the manager coordinated the staff to guide customers to the emergency exits and ensure their safety. Meanwhile, a group of maids improvised emergency lighting with flashlights and candles, while the technical staff worked tirelessly to restore electricity. Every gesture demonstrated responsibility and solidarity. Madame Leonard, appearing in the hall, observed the scene with a mixture of pride and tension. She knew that this crisis would reveal who had truly changed and who remained trapped in their bad habits. After an hour of hard work, the electricity was restored, and the hotel gradually returned to normal. Guests applauded the staff's responsiveness and efficiency, impressed by everyone's coordination and composure. The director gathered her team, their faces illuminated by the newfound light. "You've faced your first real crisis. Those who have shown courage, solidarity, and respect have proven they deserve to stay here. The others must understand that in this hotel, every action counts, and the slightest deviation can have serious consequences." The young waiter, humble and sincere, stepped forward. "Ms. Leonard, thank you. You've shown us what it truly means to be responsible. We never want to go back to our old ways." She smiled, aware that this crisis had sealed the transformation of her team. Some had failed, but those who had changed were now ready to support the Majestic Hotel, against all odds. That evening, the hotel shone not only with its luxury, but with the strength and integrity of its employees. And Madame Leonard knew that, from now on, no hardship could destabilize her vision. A few weeks after the power crisis, the Majestic Hotel hosted a charity gala attended by international guests, celebrities, and dignitaries. The event was crucial for the image of the hotel and its staff. Madame Leonard, watching from her office, felt an unusual tension. She knew that tonight would be the ultimate test. All the lessons her team had learned would be brought to light before demanding and critical eyes. From the moment the doors opened, everything unfolded with remarkable precision. The employees, each at their station, coordinated their actions like a perfectly oiled machine. Waiters anticipated the guests' needs, chambermaids adjusted every detail of the rooms used for VIPs, and security personnel calmly and authoritatively controlled traffic. But the key moment came when the evening's main star, a celebrity known for her difficult temperament, made an unexpected request. She wanted to visit a suite that hadn't been prepared for her. Murmurs rippled through the room. In the hotel's old culture, this would have created chaos and frustration. This time, the staff reacted differently. Without panicking, the young waiter coordinated the movement of everything needed to prepare the suite in record time, while a group of employees improvised an elegant decoration. Every movement was swift but impeccable, every detail carefully considered. When the celebrity entered the suite, she was speechless. Everything was perfect, as if the room had been specially prepared for her weeks before. She turned to the staff and, impressed, declared, "It's incredible, you're perfect." In the lobby, Madame Leonard smiled, proud of her quiet but profound transformation. The employees had proven that they had integrated respect, responsibility, and solidarity not out of fear, but out of conviction. The evening continued with splendor, and every staff achievement was noted by the guests. Some employees, who previously mocked or denigrated their colleagues, now received sincere and admiring compliments. At the end of the event, the director gathers her team. "Tonight, you've proven that you're capable of excellence, even under pressure. But remember, this isn't just for the clients or for me. It's for you, for your dignity and pride in your work." A respectful silence followed, filled with emotion and gratitude. For many, it was more than a professional lesson, it was a life lesson. The Majestic Hotel was no longer just a place of luxury, but a symbol of transformation, respect, and excellence. And thanks to Madame Leonard's vision and courage, each employee had discovered their own unique value, ready to shine beyond all expectations. A few months after the gala, the tranquility of the Majestic Hotel was brutally threatened. A former employee, fired for his disrespectful attitude and refusal to change, decided to take revenge. Known among the staff as an arrogant and provocative figure, he planned a discreet but potentially catastrophic act of sabotage, blocking computer systems, causing outages in VIP rooms, and sowing chaos during a busy weekend. That fateful morning, Madame Leonard immediately sensed that something was wrong. The first signs appeared: elevators inexplicably stopping, reservations disappearing from screens, and customers beginning to complain about small, unusual incidents. Instead of panicking, she called her team together. "Listen to me carefully. What we've built over the past few months will be tested like never before. But I know you're ready. Every action, every decision counts." The employees, galvanized by their recent experiences, sprang into action. The young server coordinated room logistics and guest communication, while the technical staff quickly identified computer anomalies. Housekeeping and service staff anticipated guests' needs to avoid any inconvenience. When the saboteur burst into a technical area in an attempt to cause a complete blackout, he was immediately confronted by the team. But instead of shouting or panicking, they confronted him calmly and firmly. "You won't ruin what we've built," said the server-turned-leader. Madame Leonard arrived at that moment, observing the scene. She didn't need to intervene, her team had already demonstrated that it could protect the hotel with intelligence and courage. The saboteur, surprised by their unity and confidence, was quickly neutralized by security. The weekend ended without further incident. Customers, unaware of the danger they had just avoided, left impressed by the smooth service and the professionalism of the staff. After the storm, Madame Leonard gathers her team. "You have just proven that the transformation is not just superficial. You have understood that the hotel is not just a place, but a symbol of respect, responsibility, and solidarity. Even in the face of malevolence, you have held on." For the first time, some employees who had been reluctant to change smiled with pride. They knew they had truly changed and that their work now had a much deeper meaning. And Madame Leonard, observing the scene, knew that the future of the Majestic Hotel was in good hands, a transformed team, united and ready to face all challenges. A few months after the saboteur crisis, the Majestic Hotel shone more than ever. Prestigious guests flocked in, impressed not only by the luxury, but also by the exceptional quality of the service. Every employee had absorbed the lessons of discipline, respect, and solidarity instilled by Madame Leonard. The hotel lobby, once a scene of mockery and indifference, now echoed with respectful laughter, warm exchanges, and sincere gestures between colleagues. Hierarchy was no longer imposed by authority alone, but by competence and professionalism. A momentous event was held to celebrate this transformation. Madame Leonard invited the entire staff to a ceremony in the Great Hall, decorated with flowers and sparkling lights. She spoke, her voice filled with pride and emotion. "A few months ago, I discovered a difficult truth: some of the behavior in this hotel was unacceptable. But you chose to change. You chose to become better, for yourselves and for others." The employees, some still moved, looked at each other with renewed mutual admiration. The young waiter-turned-leader smiled humbly, aware of how far he had come. "Today, you are much more than a staff. You are a united team, capable of facing any challenge, of creating beauty and excellence in every detail of your work." Applause echoed through the hall. The VIP guests invited to attend the ceremony were impressed by this unity, a testament to the profound impact of the transformation. Then Madame Leonard announced a symbolic gesture. "To demonstrate that this transformation is sustainable, we will introduce an annual program where each employee can share their experiences, learn new skills and continue to cultivate excellence and respect." The staff, touched, understood that this victory was not only that of the director, but of each of them. They had faced criticism, fatigue, fear, and malice, and had emerged stronger. That evening marked the consecration of the Majestic Hotel, a place where luxury met dignity, where respect and solidarity became the true pillars of success. And Madame Leonard, smiling and serene, knew that her team was now ready to write a brilliant future, where excellence and humanity would always go hand in hand. The Majestic was no longer just a luxury hotel, it was a living symbol of transformation, integrity, and inspiration.